that the other
I
day
know I do that sometimes myself.
when Laura was on here. Right, so I'm going to go quickly. I'm just going to give Frank a little introduction because I think he can better introduce himself to you and you want to hear more from him. You've heard enough from me lately. So this is our colleague, Frank. He is coming to us, some of you have already heard, from Canada. And Frank is one of our course authors. He wrote our course, Teaching Writing to Intermediate and Advanced English Learners. Writing is his thing. So Frank, I'm going to let you introduce yourself with a little more detail and jump on in.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. So I'm literally the odd man out in the English Learner Portal because I think I'm the only male member of that team. So thanks so much for getting me involved in this. And also, I think a bit of the odd man out because of I'm at probably at the higher level high school here. I teach at a college level, which is equivalent, well, junior college level, which is equivalent to a grade 11 and grade 12. So that's where I'm coming from. So a lot of my stuff is with upper level and high intermediate to advanced language learners at the junior college where I teach. So I've been teaching a long time. I actually started as a high school teacher many years ago. A high school teacher, yeah, I was a long time a high school teacher, and then I went to university to teach teacher training, and then did a doctorate in England because I'm originally from New York and from Boston. Went to Boston College and studied there, so I had a great experience, and then went on to do MA work in Canada and then PhD work in the UK. So right now I'm at the junior college and doing stuff with amazing students. Montreal is a great place to teach language, second language, and the English language because the students mostly are French speaking or allophones. They come from all over the world. So it's an exciting experience. So today I want to share, if I share my screen, so thank you ladies for attending. And I want to share my screen and jump right in because we don't want to take all day. So what I'm going to be doing is talking about successful language teaching and talking about the ESA model, that stands for engage, study, and activate. And this, as Kelly says, comes from the course Teaching Writing to Intermediate and Advanced English Language Learners, which is available online at English Learner Portal. So I'll do an overview of the course, look at some of its features quickly, do the ASA. Obviously, that's the focus of the talk today is on engage, study, activate, a model that I use, and I'm just so excited about that model. Talk a little bit about what's called Boomerang. Virtual Writing Tutor, I have to put in a plug for that free tool. I don't know if you're aware of that. And then we'll field some questions, and then I post up my email. So this course, which is Teach Academic Writing, is available, as you see here, on Kelly's Kajabi website, Teaching Writing to Intermediate to Advanced Learners. You have all these elements to the course objectives. There's a pre-test study guide. There are activities and projects and quizzes that if you complete them successfully, you'll get 3 credits from Brandman University. I think you're all familiar with that. So you can actually get professional development certification and upgrading for that. So there are 5 modules here. An interview with Kelly herself on WIDA, and the little talk I'm going to give today is from module 2.1, what is successful learning? There are 5 modules. So if I go back to my slide here, so I talk here about the elements of good writing in the course, skills, important skills like paraphrasing, summarizing, quoting, offer some techniques and strategies, the self-correcting project. Does anybody know what REP stands for? Not rest in peace, but REP, which is revise, edit, and proofread. It's an important process in the writing, the whole writing process. There are 3 interviews in the course. The first one is with Kelly herself talking about WIDA and the can-do, which is great. There's one with Dorothy Zemek, who talks about brainstorming, and there's one with my colleague Nick Walker, who's actually the creator of the Virtual Writing Tutor. Special section of the course is on teaching literature through film. students, I don't know if at the lower levels, but I know at the upper levels, students love watching movies and using them to do writing and speaking activities. So if I go now to the features, as I say, the features in the course, teaching writing to intermediate upper level students, there are preview questions, there's a module introduction, all the lessons are audio visual. This particular lesson 2.1 is actually an 18-minute recording, which I just looked at, and it's pretty interesting. I'm taking material from that 2.1 module on the ESA model. There are interviews, there's 3 of them. There's a reading, there's self-assessment checklists, there are quizzes, and there's works cited. So today's talk features what's called the ESA model, which stands for engage, study, and activate. And I don't have to tell teachers that the first thing in getting students to participate in learning is to engage them. And if you could see here, Bloom, I think you're all familiar with Bloom's taxonomy. And here, he also has an effective domain taxonomy. We know the intellectual taxonomy, which goes through 5 levels. The highest level would be what I think evaluation. The lowest level just would be remembering, something like that, factual. But the effective level it really is quite interesting. And I go back here, the first level of engagement is actually having students be willing to listen to you. I remember going back when I was in high school a long time ago, the school principal, a wise man, a very, very wise man, he said, you have to sell your materials like nobody else. I mean, the principal, I'm not going to come in and sell your materials to the students. I'm not going to be passionate. You've got to do the selling process. And the first step in that is to engage the students and get them to, as you see on the right side there, to listen to what you're saying and get off maybe their cell phones. I don't know how probably at the lower levels, I don't know if your kids use cell phones, but they do, and at the college level, they're on their phones. So you've got to catch their attention, first of all, and get them to actually listen to you. So that's engagement at its lowest level. And then the next level here is respond to phenomena. And you see on the right box there, they participate in class discussions, give a presentation, question new ideals or new ideas, concepts, and modules in order to fully understand them and keep safety rules and practice and so on. So the key words are answer, assist, complies, conforms, discussions. So this is so important. And sometimes we forget that. We go into a classroom and start teaching and we don't have the students' attention. So engagement is key. And what are some engagement activities? Well, there are things like stimulating pictures and games and music and discussions and dramatic stories and amusing anecdotes, coming in and telling a story or playing some music to catch students' attention. And one of the things that I like to use, you see, even this here, this little visual could be a starter. What are these people talking about? Why do they look like that? And what are they talking about? So catching their interest is so important, and with stimulating pictures. So the ESA model, again, standing for to engage a student and then have them study language and then have them activate their use of language, it for me is a fantastic kind of tool, and it comes from a language book that I've been using a long time, How to Teach English by Jeremy Harmer. And the first stage of that is to engage. And what I'd like to mention is that to illustrate the model, I had students look at what's called the 39 steps, both the film, which is a Alfred Hitchcock film, and it's also a live play. So at the upper levels, at the college level, I take students to see live plays, English language plays. So before I actually took them to the play, I had them watch the movie, The 39 Steps, the 1935 Alfred Hitchcock movie, the 39 Steps. And then I had the students engage in the first activity here is to guess the meaning, for example, of that picture. You see the 39 steps guy there running with a hand after him. So I asked students with that visual, with that picture of the 39 steps, to tell me, well, what do you think 39 steps stands for? Is it a dance routine, or what is it? And what is this guy? Who is this guy? Why is there a hand behind him? Why is he running away? Is this threatening? Does this look like this is going to be a fun story, or is this going to have some tension in it? And so I get them to look at the visual and to think about what this story is about, to engage their interest and get them to think about what they're doing. So that very first activity here is an individual activity, which is guess what's happening. And then I have students in the second part of the engagement is to take notes and share what they find. So I ask students to take their cell phone. It's a tool in the classroom. You want to leverage the tool as much as you can, because they're going to use it anyway, whether you like it or not. So I have them go and say, hey, go and check out the 39 steps. Go into Wikipedia and find out things about it and take notes, maybe 8 to 10 minutes individually, write down, or it pairs, I say this is a pair work, and write down what you find about the 39 steps. The fact that it first originally appeared as a novel, and then Alfred Hitchcock made it into a movie in 1935, which is a classic. I don't know about you, but I love any of the Alfred Hitchcock stuff, and students tell he's a master. An iconic, a mythic filmmaker, and students love his work. Then I have them look at that it was made into a play, a Broadway play that won tons of awards. So I get them to take notes and share what they find in a classroom exchange setting. And then if we go on now, I have them go to focus on the language component of the lesson, which is watch part of the film. Watch the first 15 minutes, because the plot is quite complicated in that story. And so I have them actually watch the first 10 to 15 minutes of the film, and then they get to read a synopsis. I took a synopsis of Act 1 of the story, and I asked them to define the meaning of words. So there's a vocabulary activity. So here, and so they define the meaning of other verbs in step 2.b. So here, for example, I show here that I have the synopsis of the story, which has to do with it's a kind of like a detective story, a mystery story, where this fellow Richard Hannay is watching. It takes place in London. Man is watching a fellow with photographic memory named Mr. Memory when an unexpected gunshot rings out. So I have all these underlined words here from the synopsis of the film, the part of the film, and then I have students work on defining these words, and they're not that simple. They're of course enriched vocabulary items. Rings out, she turns out, and she's trailed by assassins and aware of danger lurking outside, and her plan is to seek help. And then Richard is on the run in order to clear his name. So these are quite challenging words for even, I would think, native speakers to understand what these words mean, and the phrasal expressions, to ring out and to turn out. And so they work on that. And then I have them go back here to this here, define the meaning of other verbs in the text and write down the main events. So again, it's pair work, and then to actually to rephrase what's happening in the story. So then if I go on to my activate phrase, so we've looked at the engagement phrase, was getting them motivated to want to work on this activity. The study phase is to look at particular aspects of language, and then the activate phase, which is really important, is using the language. And here are some examples, if you can carry on to your own work, which would be things like sharing and role plays and debates. I love to do debates. I like to do role plays, simple and more complicated role plays, discussions, story, poem writing. I love to do projects. And I do a debate project with my students. I do a songwriting project. I do a film project. And in fact, as part of this course, there's a series of activities for having the students use film to analyze literature, which is a great activity. I just love the activity where they take a classic book, read part of the book, but also see the film. So it gets them really excited because kids are so visual today. They've got to be motivated visually. And so by using a film to teach a classic novel, it just gets them engaged right off the bat. And they get to choose the novel of the film that they're going to be analyzing. And then of course they're writing assignments in groups. So if I go to my activate phrase, so that's the general background. And Harmer actually calls it a rehearsal for the real world, getting the students to use language meaningfully, as we see here, use language meaningfully. So the activate phase would be to write down descriptive words, synonyms, and to share information. And what do I mean about write down descriptive words? So what I have students do here is actually they've seen now the movie, and they've seen the play. They've actually seen a live play. So I devised this activity here where they're going to write descriptive words, and they're going to use the words in context. So I asked the students, again, working in groups now, there was individual work, there was pair work, now there's group work, where they have all of these amazing categories here. You could use those for a film, you could use those for a play, you could use even those here, script, acting, costumes, props, music, special effects, positive comment, negative comment. So they brainstorm in the group, and then they come up with these descriptive words, adjectives, high-powered adjectives to describe these different elements of the play or the film. So complicated, dynamic, amusing, innovative, professional, unconventional. These are words students came up. Stunning, special effects, entertaining, negative, it was a bit long, repetitive. And so I have 5 groups, let's say of 5 students, 25 students, everybody's involved. And then they get to write down their particular group's vocabulary. And then I ask them to use the words in context. So for example, if I have here the special effects were unconventional, so I'll ask a student from that group to stand up and to tell me in context, what did you mean by that expression, the special effects were unconventional? So that in a sense puts them on the spot. And I tell them before that if you're going to write down these words, be prepared. Always a group, of course, I think you would know that a group would have a note taker, would have a moderator to lead the group discussion, and have a note taker to write down notes, and then maybe have a third person to share the notes with the class. So students are already alerted to the fact that they have different roles, and they may be called on to actually participate in front of the class to share what they've written about. So in summary then, we see the different phases of this process, where there's an engage phase with a number of activities involving pictures, the internet, YouTube. They're taking notes in pairs. They're watching a film as a whole group. They're reading a synopsis in pairs, defining words in pairs, activate, which would be small group work to write down descriptive words and share information. So you see within this context of the ESA model, and you can put that, use that with anything that the examples that we've shown about. And I just think it's just an effective tool to keep us on task. Everybody is on task. There's a target, you know where you're going, and it's just fun. Harmer also talks about the boomerang procedure quite quickly here, is that you can vary. You don't have to do engage, what is it, ESA, engage, study, activate. You could do engage, activate, study, activate. You can change the blocks. And he gives the example of, let's say, a job interview where you have engaged students in a discussion about a job interview, what the kinds of questions that they could ask each other, and then actually have them role play very quickly a series of 5 or 6 questions to activate them, to get them to produce the language of a job search situation, have them produce the language, use it meaningfully, come back and study the kind of language that they use, focus on perhaps a little bit more on grammar and on a structure of the language, and then come back and activate it where you're correcting what they, you're studying the kinds of language they use, and then activate it again to do another little job interview in another situation. So you can actually modify the ESA procedure. So the last thing I want to say is one of the, I want to highly recommend you have a look at the virtual writing tutor. Teachers who have taken the course and have used this have found it a really, really useful tool. It's a free tool. It's a grammar checker. It's a punctuation checker. It's a writing checker. You can do text to speech if you're familiar with the ability to speak into a text box and create text. I do that with Dragon. I normally what I do is record my lectures from spoken language and then it becomes text. So students can have the ability to go from speech to text and then from text to speech and speech to texts. So they can speak, they can read a text and then hear it, they can see a text and hear it spoken. And then they can speak a text and then check their pronunciation. Because my colleague, Nick Walker, who created this, he's created a pronunciation checker to check your pronunciation. And so this would be great for students who, lower level students who are sort of struggling to get the right structures. And if I show, for example, the actual page of the virtual writing tutor here, there's automated writing evaluation. This is for upper level stuff. Their cover letters and see, I mentioned here participating in the creation of some of these tools. What's interesting too, there's a pen pal exchange program. If you've ever done a pen pal exchange with students at your school or another school, in one of the schools, I was working with Kelly put me in contact with a teacher in one of the school boards down there, where my students wrote to them in French and they wrote to my students in English. So that's kind of interesting. There's an essay checker and then so on. And there are games, you can go in and do games. And if I go into, no, I don't think I'll have time. There's a pen pal checker and so on. And so I highly recommend that you test that out. If I go here, no, we don't have time. Here, if I go here, oh, I did this before. So if I go here and do that and say, for example, here, if I go here, my name is Frank. Does that work? Does it go here? Speak now. My name is Frank. Oh, there you go. Speak now. My name is Frank. So you can get the students to speak into this tool and see the text written, which is really fun. And then you can go in and do.
Speak now. My name is Frank.
You could hear the text spoken, but with a pretty reliable native speaker type accent. So that's kind of fun. So I highly recommend that you check it. It's free. And then there's you can find out about the pen pal exchange project if that interests you. So let me go back to my presentation here. I notice time is running down here. So maybe we should jump to questions. You could always reach me if you want. I have a simple, well, fairly simple. My name, sometimes I misspell it myself, frank@frankbunkowski.com. But Kelly, if there are any kinds of questions that we could field, I'd be happy to open it up to questions.
All right, that's like, these feel like speed sharing, don't they? Yeah. How fast can you get 1,000 ideas in? So if you have any questions, you can put those into the chat box. I will put Frank's email in the chat box.
Yeah, you saw my email here as well. Frank@frankbunkowski, Polish origin, via New York City Hospital in New York.
And we, of course, are recording and will share out the video on the Spark Series Replays website that we've talked about the past couple days. So what questions do you have for Frank? I'll be quiet and watch the chat box for a second.
So if I stop sharing, Kelly, right?
Sure.
Stop sharing, that's enough. Okay, if I'm back here.
Now you can see everybody's face again.
I see participants. Don't feel shy if there's anything you'd want to query or go into a little bit deeper. And
it came up in the chat box while you were talking, Frank, that even though you introduced yourself as an a teacher of older students, of high school and above, early college age students, that the strategies you mentioned are really applicable to whatever age level. It's just a matter of changing up the supports and expectations and making it more, the content engaging at that age level.
Exactly. And I've had actually, it's interesting, Kelly, I've had teachers who have taken this course that range from fifth grade, sixth grade teachers to college level teachers in Europe, for goodness sake, and they've gotten value out of it. So the principles and the techniques for teaching academic writing, the focus is on academic writing, and we might downplay. Certainly you don't, but we say, oh, students need in today's day and age, do they need academic writing? Well, the facts are that employers are looking for people who can not only think critically, solve problems, but to communicate well in writing. Well, you can't get away from it. It's a skill that students have to come to grasp, to come to grips with, is writing well. Emails and job applications and short texts and explaining things properly.
Perfect. All right, Frank, a couple times in the sessions, we've used the breakout rooms so that when we have a large group like this, that people can get together and chat and meet others from across the countries, across the world. So I'm going to switch it. There was a request to do that. It sounds like people want to have some time to chat. If you don't want to join the breakout room, you don't have to click join. You can hang out, but I'm going to open up the breakout rooms for a few minutes. Before I do that, I want to say thank you to anybody who is going to check out at this point, and that we'll see you on Wednesday for more about writing with Ruslana Westerland, who is another one of our course creators and also a researcher with the WIDA Consortium and an author. So she's always fun to listen to. So for those of you who are checking out, I will see you on Wednesday. And for those of you who are staying, I'm going to open the break rooms. We'll open the breakout rooms for about 10 minutes or so. And we'll come back to say goodbye to those of you who are still here. So let's see, how many rooms do we want? All right, have fun in your rooms.
So you want me to stick around and wait till people come back and share, correct, Kelly?
I think so, if you can. If you can't,
Yeah.
that's fine. But
No, I'm okay.
if you can, we'll wait till they come back in case any questions come up. And so at this point, I just check in the breakout rooms and make sure everybody has a friend, so nobody's hanging out by themselves.
Benita is still there on the left. See? Here she goes. Ah.
Bye-bye.
And Victoria. So I thought my timing was pretty good. It took about 30 minutes. 20
Yeah, you had that right on. I'm not that good. I talk too much.
No, I got to be focused. That's for sure.
I know they get me like going, and then I get excited about something, and then we keep on talking.
I'm working on some new stuff in critical thinking. I just came out with a new video on what's critical thinking. It's for a new book for upper level students.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Keeping you busy and out of trouble.
That's for sure. A good time to do it with the lot. We're still a bit in lockdown, although it's opening up. But I'm not going to venture out. I'm not going to go to a restaurant or go swimming. I wear my mask, and I'm not going to take a chance.
Yeah. How bad was it where you are?
Well, Montreal was the epicenter of Canadian, that in Toronto and Montreal were the centers, and I think there are 4,000 deaths for 8 million people. So that's pretty high in Montreal, and it's particularly in the old age homes.
Yeah, that's
The
been the
older
problem
people,
here too.
I mean, it was devastating. And in fact, there's one down the block from me where 17 people died. So,
Wow.
and they had to bring in the military, and they'll stay there for the next 2 months or so, or at least another month. They brought in 500 soldiers to, and I think they're doing that in some states as well.
They did in the beginning. What are they helping with medical care and things like that?
Yeah, because the issue is that many of these old age centers were substandard. They didn't have the proper staff. They didn't have the proper equipment. They didn't have the training to approach the pandemic. And so they were problematic right from they've been problematic for several years now. And with this disease, with this virus, it just became much, much worse. So don't go visit your grandmother, unfortunately.
No,
It's,
I know a number of friends who have, parents that are in different assisted livings, and they always have pictures of them standing by the window, like visiting through the window or visiting and, like this with a FaceTime or something.
my stepdaughter
So
works.
sad.
My stepdaughter works at the hospital. She's at the Montreal General Hospital. She's a frontline nurse in intensive care, and she sees she sees the virus up front, and so she's got us very concerned. I'm just amazed how the states are so lackadaisical. I mean, people are out. I mean, of course, varies from state to state, but I'm just amazed how lackadaisical people are in the states about this virus. There was somebody yesterday was interviewed on I don't know, Meet the Press or Face the Nation, and he said, I'm in shape. I'm a guy who works out. I'm in shape. I got the virus, and I thought I was going to die. I was in intensive care for 4 days. People don't realize how serious it is. It's a bad thing. So I'm taking all the precautions.
Yeah. Yeah, it brings out everybody's personalities of independence versus compliance versus.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not 30 years old either, but even then, I mean, young people are getting sick. So
Yeah.
uh, it's not a question of age. Of course, there are higher risk factors if you're older.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Yeah. A
we'll
lot to
survive.
consider, that's for sure.
We'll survive. I mean, I love it because I get to stay home and work and do my stuff.
I know we've been able to do a lot of development work that I would have not been able to get to otherwise. So that part's been good. All right, we still have about a dozen people in breakout rooms. We'll give them a few more minutes before I always hate to interrupt the conversation.
Yeah, I see that there are 50 people in chat. You're going to save that, and maybe we can answer questions by email. Or...
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we often get more questions once people can watch the recording back and
Exactly. I whipped through it quite quickly because I know.
process it for a few minutes.
Yeah. So your timeline is next Monday. No, next Sunday. The courses
Yeah,
are
for courses to start.
excellent.
Yeah. We have a busy summer ahead, that's for sure.
Good.
We're revising our original course, the Hold Apart course. So that's what I've been working on today. We've learned a lot of things in the past 2 years. So going back and revising and adding and changing and upgrading some of the technology because now we have better video technology than we had 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's good.
our fun job for this week. Get that back out there. I'm going to send the 2-minute warning into the breakout rooms.
Oh, we took the video off for some reason. 2-minute warning.
All right, we have about, oh, everybody's coming back now. Have about a minute left in the breakout rooms, a little less.
Oh, you've got me muted as well. No.
All right, here comes the rest of the group. We're all here. Welcome back. I see everybody popping back up on the screen. We'll give it a second for all those to reconnect. All right, how were your breakout rooms? Any good conversations? Anybody want to tell us what you were talking about? If you want to use your mic, just wave at me and I'll unmute. Oh, excellent. Jill's going to tell us something.
Yeah, no, the one comment I made was as a K-12 teacher is we'd want to add an explicit lesson on writing in that study part, especially for our young, well, for all ages really.
Right, so you're going to decide what your teaching point is on that given day. Excellent. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else want to tell us what something you chatted about or any questions that came up?
Yeah, we were talking about the virtual writing tutor and how useful we thought it was.
Yeah, there's so many Tammy, there's so many features in there to check. And yeah, it's worth exploring with your students and getting them the practice going in and doing things, particularly the writing practice. It'll correct grammar, punctuation, spelling. And it does actually a just as good a job as, I think you may be familiar with Grammarly.
Yes.
And it does just as good a job as Grammarly, and it's free.
Now, does that go from their native language to English, or how does that actually work? Or the text to speech? Or do they just
I don't
type
think
it
it does their native. It does English. It does English.
English? Okay.
If they speak in, and then it'll be writing in English, and then if they type in English, they'll hear it spoken correctly. And as I say,
Okay.
Nick has created just this last month a pronunciation checker for students who say, for example, I go to the library every weeks, and if they could type that in, and then they could hear the mistakes that they've made in the pronunciation checker. So that's worth exploring.
And then it'll correct them. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay. Thank you.
I put the link to Virtual Writing Tutor in the chat box so you can click out to it and bookmark it for yourself. Yeah, we have so many tools and then we forget about them because
Exactly.
them for a while, and then so it's good to always remember what's out there. A lot of conversation right now around speaking scores because it's that time of the school year where we're getting all of our scores back. So I'm wondering what I want to experiment with whenever I can get children back in front of me, or even just to help them do it online, is to maybe use that. Maybe if they see their speech showing up on the screen as they talk, that might be more motivating to get them to keep talking. It's kind of a little feedback there. And then we can turn that into writing later. We do a lot in our model lessons and things with using oral language as the basis for literacy. And so I have some ideas of how this might work into that. But even if it's just that speaking practice, just, you know, our words are lost into the air. So if they see it on the screen, maybe they will be a little more motivated to talk.
Yeah, exactly. Do that. I like to use that I like to use the automated writer feedback for essays. Jill Kramer mentioned writing assignments. So you could actually post in, there's a corrector, for example, I worked with the creator of that tool where we had students write a film analysis essay of 500 words. And we program it to give very extensive feedback on things like thesis statement, organization, transitional expressions, and giving the students a score and having them go back, correct their initial text, and then improve it, and then get another score. So this is the beginning of automated corrective feedback. And please don't be scared that you will be replaced as a teacher. Some of the teachers says, oh, you're going to replace us. No, we will not replace you, but it gives the students more opportunity to do writing and get corrective feedback that you wouldn't have time to do if you gave them one writing assignment per week. And you
There's
spend
more
all your
than
time
enough
correcting.
work to go around.
Exactly. So that's the purpose of that automated corrective writing tool. And it deals with things like opinion essays and argumentative essays. And so it has great potential.
Yeah, this is great for now in our online learning environment, that students can get some feedback before they turn something in, or you kind of walk them through it in a session together, and then they can do more independent writing on their own if they're
Exactly. And there's an essay outliner as well that I didn't mention. They can go in and actually outline their essay.
Nice. All right, any other questions for Frank before we set him free?
To go on and work on
Not really
and doing
that free,
something.
because we talked about, while you were in the breakout rooms, we were talking about how Montreal is still locked down. So Frank is not very free, but
Oh, I am free to sit at home and work and do my stuff. I'm working currently on stuff on critical thinking, which is such an important today. I mean, critical thinking is just, with fake news and misinformation and disinformation, it's really important to get students to think about critical thinking, points of
Yeah.
view.
we definitely need more independent thinkers and less followers in our world right now. For sure.
But it's so hard.
For sure.
It's so
is.
hard to be an independent critical thinker because we're just bombarded with all kinds of information and we don't know how to
Right.
how to interpret it.
Yeah, it's a lot to sort through. All right, well, I am going to end our recording. And again, you have my email, you have Frank's email. We will post the recording probably later this evening. It shouldn't take too long to process. It's still early. And then we will see you all back same time, same place on Wednesday with Ruslana. So still time for people to jump in if you have colleagues or friends to invite. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Frank, for
My pleasure. Thanks.
our Canadian ally up there coming in to visit with us. It's always good.
Appreciate your interest. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.